What's your data? Let's see your data for the vanishingly small amount of detransitioners.
You're anti-trans.
Anyway, we remember this person, right? This is transgender education. Should transgender kids have access to hormones? This is one of those, like, newer trans people, you know what I mean? Like, they kind of started recently and aren't super presenting. Yeah, we've got the egg crack at the top here. We can see that, which is a bit, and the blahage, which is a bit odd for someone at this age. Give it a thumbs up as an American cracker. Yeah, I like his message, honestly. And I think giving some pushback to obsessing over privilege to the extent that some people do is very necessary. And it's something I want to do as well. Yeah, so this channel's been around about as long as mine has, should I say. Like, I've been doing this, 6.5 months or something? So it's similar. But yeah, transgender education. This is going to be one of those, like, vibe check things. This is going to be one of those, this is where, like, the real divide is. Should transgender kids have access to hormones? Let's see what they say. They might be, listen, I push this stereotype a little bit of, like, older male to female transsexuals that seem to want to, like, live vicariously through kids and seem extremely sure that they would have been so much happier if they transitioned as a child. You know what I mean? Oh yeah, this person is British. He's in, like, Poland, I think, but he's British. But yeah, let's see what they're saying. Matt Walsh is running for governor. Holy shit, fair enough. Listen, good luck to him. You might even get it. Like, crazy shit's happening at the moment. Fucking Elon Musk is part of the government now. Or is going to be.
All right. Hi. So I could imagine there's going to be several people clicking on this video, not necessarily because they're interested in listening to what I have to say, but because they just want to go straight to the comment section and start bombarding me with their...
Oh no, we're not talking about me here. Listen, I'm here to listen to what you have to say. Like, the comment section, like, fuck this shit. That'll spoil it for me. I want to know what the take is.
Perspectives, which I appreciate comments, I do, but I would really appreciate it if before you do that, you watch the entirety of this video. This is...
Don't worry about that. We'll be doing so.
A super important subject, which I think everybody can agree on. But I would hope that first of all, before you start responding to me, you actually hear what I have to say. So please do watch this video to the end before jumping into the comments. So today...
I mean, I'll be jumping in to comment because it's my fucking stream, but I should be able to watch till the end. I don't see why not.
As the title suggests, I'm going to be talking about a question I'm often asked in the comment section. Do I think that trans kids should be given hormones, or actually more often it's framed as should kids be given hormones, which is a slightly different thing. But I'm going to focus on the trans kids angle because obviously that's where I'm coming from, and I think that's more pertinent to this particular question. Oh my, this is going to be one of the hardest videos I've made, not just because of the content matter, but because I forgot my gloves today and it's absolutely freezing.
I can't envision a world where I would personally vote for Matt Walsh, but hey, I don't know. See what happens. I'm not really one for obsessing over American politics. I just watch. I'm just observing from across the pond, thanking God that it's not my country this shit is happening in. We must admit, anyone can make a dumbass point in 30 seconds, so you don't need to watch every video to the end to get it. That is true, yes.
I'm going to have to be doing very short takes and switching my hands between my pockets just to keep them warm. Well, it might come as little to no surprise to some of you that the short, too long didn't watch message that I'm going to make here is, yes, I think that trans kids should have access to hormones.
Okay. Very, very strongly disagree.
But I'm going to explain myself and flesh that out with a little bit more nuance, so please don't just jump to conclusions when I say this. Now, when it comes to medication, people often ask me, well, what would have been my feeling if I had been on puberty blockers or some kind of hormonal therapy as a child?
Please tell me, please tell me, please tell me that the answer is you do not know because you don't know. The very concept of a trans kid is poison. Yeah, I try and keep away from it. Hi, Rob Slide. I'm good. I hope you're good too.
And honestly, I don't know, because, I didn't have that treatment.
There we go. There's at least someone being slightly honest.
I didn't have that knowledge to ask for it, or to ask for support at the very least.
I didn't have knowledge to ask for it or ask for support. Did you even feel that way as a kid? Did you even feel like you wish you were a girl, or you should have been a girl, or somehow got it in your head that you are a girl?
Would I have regretted it? Well, I mean, my life would have been very different, of course. I
Might not even still be around. Like, hey, there's a lot we still don't know.
probably wouldn't have this channel, for one thing, so I guess that's bad news for some of you. But
Okay, it's bad news for me. This person should have transitioned as a kid. Fully agree. Actually, no. The opposite. Fuck it. Let's just edit this part out. Who cares?
I don't know. Would I have regretted it? It's impossible for me to say. I'm just as transgender now as I was back then, and I've had to endure.
Well, seeing as being transgender is literally just calling yourself something, that's not much of a claim, quite honestly. Everyone is as roundabout as much transgender now as they were when they were a kid. That's kind of how it works.
Puberty, aging, so I am fairly irrecoverably like this.
Well, Stargazer, there is absolutely no concrete method, and it's one reason why I personally am against child transition.
There have been some physical changes, but to be able to present as female as I hope, I don't know, it's kind of an impossible dream, I feel.
See, I feel weird when I hear people talk about how female they hope to present. But I'm not, like, how do I say this nicely? I'm really not trying to shit on this person. I'm not just trying to be like, look at this fucking troon who wants to transition kids so we can fuck them or something. It's not about that. But like, hang on, let me just get that again. Yeah, it's like, how much time does any one person have in the day to like fuck around with some cheap eyeliners and like do their eyebrows a bit and put on some mascara? I'm not sure. You're putting yourself out there to the world, and you're unfortunately giving like mixed messages. You know what I mean? Oh, you help someone move. Fair enough.
I don't know. It's kind of an impossible dream, I feel. But I'm okay with that. I honestly am. So...
Why is it an impossible dream? Is it because you're male? Because I'm male. There's nothing wrong with being male. There's nothing wrong with being male and wanting to present in a feminine way.
And I've also experienced so many things. I have enjoyed the privilege of being white, cis male presenting, and that's opened up quite a few doors for me. So I can't say that I have
No actual explanation. Maybe just leave out the, intersectionality talk, unless it's like a signal to followers or something.
haven't enjoyed that privilege, but at the same time, would I have been happier if I had transitioned sooner?
How do you know you would have lost all that privilege? How do you know you wouldn't have been privileged in other ways that would also have been advantageous?
Honestly, I can't say, but I can say with 99.9% certainty, I would not have regretted it. I think the thing that...
Okay, so we're able to determine that we don't know how it would have been, and at least be smart enough to say that I don't know if I should have transitioned as a kid, but you're happy to make up as to whether you'd have regretted it or not. Then, like, I don't know. He's practically saying the same thing without saying it. I don't know. He's starting to lose me a bit. This is not about bashing people. It's about understanding perspectives and trying to do better. But hey, why would an 18-year-old need puberty blockers? I have no idea. Maybe because they've got prostate cancer or something. I don't know. Now he's maxed out the white cis male privilege. He's ready for the next level of entitlement. Hey, maybe. Listen, is there not a certain amount of privilege to live in a country or be from a country where you're able to do these kind of things with, let's say, minimal pushback, because trans people do get shit for being trans. That is true. But, you know, you're British, you live in Europe. You're still coming from a very privileged angle, and trying to compare it to your so-called white male cis privilege is kind of hollow in that way.
That would have led me to regret things is the the social pressures of what being trans means in the world, of what being trans means in the UK, what being trans means when it
doesn't have to mean anything. It can be a personal thing. I've known people, like there was someone, like my last like really long term job that I was out for like almost 5 years. There was someone I knew that was trans that ended up working there for a couple of years, like a few years after I'd been there. And like, she got on just fine. Like she made friends with like basically everyone. She did well. It's because if you're that kind of person that you just regard people the way you want to be regarded, that's going to really help. And unfortunately, a lot of trans people don't do that. A lot of us are getting radicalized. A lot of us are getting brought into these like weird culty beliefs that have got absolutely nothing to do with transition. Like polyamory, what's that got to do with transition? Basically nothing. Communism, what's that got to do with being trans? Basically nothing. You know what I mean? But yeah, we all fall in, like intersectionality again. Being intersectional has got absolutely nothing to do with being trans. And we shouldn't be pushing these things simultaneously all the time, because it makes people feel like they have to be this as well as that. You know what I mean? And it's extremely alienating for those trans people of us that don't have those opinions and don't live our lives that way, and find it confusing that it seems necessary if you want to be in like trans communities and stuff.
When it comes to traveling, that would have made my life incredibly different and incredibly harder, no doubt.
You wouldn't have been able to travel as much. Bro, listen to me. I haven't left this country since I was 16. I'm now 34. I just have not been able to afford it at all. That's just not how my life's gone. Like, to complain that it would have been more difficult to travel while trans, I'm sorry. Am I supposed to feel bad for you? I just don't. I'm sorry.
And so anybody who takes that plunge is taking it with an understanding that your life is going to change. And oftentimes it can be for the worst. And so, you know, again, people point to...
That is true.
...detransitioners and say, well, what about them? And I have nothing but love and support for people who have tried to transition or tried the transition experience and decided that it's not for them for whatever reason. They've obviously endured a lot of difficult experiences.
Okay, a bit of empathy. Listen, this is not the worst person I've ever listened to by far.
And so we should offer them the understanding and love that they deserve. But that doesn't mean...
Ruh-roh. Okay, listen. We're on a tightrope now. What he says next. Let's just see. No cliffhangers.
Mean that this should be a stick to beat trans people with. That shouldn't be a reason for removing access to a type of therapy.
If a lot of people are detransitioning, yes, maybe it should, because that's fucking them up. Some of them, they'll never have kids. They might have kids, but can never breastfeed them. That's quite serious. But do children have that understanding? No, they don't. Yep. And it's a bit odd now that I think about it. Thanks for mentioning that we're making this point when we're talking about trans kids, because whatever we take, like, as an adult understanding of something, we have to, like, remove a lot of that when we're talking about kids, for sure. Because necessarily, they're just not going to understand things as well. How they're being explained things, especially the way it seems in, like, America sometimes, is also extremely relevant. Not necessary, relevant. I don't know, he's in danger of losing me very big here.
Because a vanishingly small percentage...
Vanishingly small? What's your data? Let's see your data for the vanishingly small amount of detransitioners. And why does it matter if it's a vanishingly small amount? They've still gone through shit. So do you actually care about detransitioners and want them to be heard? Because if all you're going to say is, well, that's not a reason to stop everyone transitioning, then that's bullshit, unfortunately. Like, there's no other way of saying it. That's just bullshit at that point.
If people go on to regret or to stop those transitional medications.
Show me some data. Nothing is linked. So show me. Put something on screen. You're not walking around in Poland when you are editing your videos to put them up. Just show me something. Where's your data coming from to say this?
Medication. So anyway, earlier on...
Wait, no. It's just a new sentence with a new take. Fuck me.
I said that I thought that trans kids should have access to hormones. And this is a different thing altogether than all trans kids should be on hormones.
Yeah, the thing is, Ginger Blaze, like, if someone starts off that way, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. But if they're then going to go on to say a bunch of stuff that invalidates that, then yeah, like, unfortunately, the butt has kind of, in this case, destroyed that goodwill. But that's how it works. I don't assume that people have, like, dodgy opinions. They have to actually say them, you know?
And I just want to explain what I mean.
And the other thing is, unfortunately, this is extremely common. This is like a cliche, practically. Oh, I care about detransitioners, even though I never talk about them and fucking disavow any that are around. But there's hardly any of them, so that shouldn't matter about transitioning and stuff. They shouldn't be doing this, that, and the, like, no, just stop. Just stop at that point. You've said enough.
Now, I think, and I would hope that most sensible people would agree with this, most normal, rational people, that if you are in need of support, whatever that means, you should have at your disposal access to all of the tools that you need.
This is true, but what does any one trans kid actually need? Considering how many of them will go on to desist if just going through puberty, considering how changeable, like, children are, considering how difficult it is for adults to understand what they need versus what they want. So that's going to be a big thing, I think, is the difference between what we need and what we want. And just blanket saying, well, if the child says they're trans and they need this, that, and the other, that's not good enough, I'm afraid.
To help you get through that period of difficulty. Now, that could mean medication, but it could also mean therapy. It could also mean...
Medication? When we're talking about kids, like, is medication often, like, the first thing we go for when we're talking about kids? I'm really not sure about this. Hi, Sarah Delansky. I hope you're well.
Social support. It could also mean anything, really. I mean...
Yeah, because this is so vague. Like, it's easy to talk about these things in these broad ways. The problem is when you start looking more closely at, like, kids, trans kids, like, you have to look at it way more closely than this. Just saying, yeah, just support them, blanket. I mean, yeah, they need support. Remind me of this person... backstory. I only know so much. They seem to have come out as trans about 6 months ago. Their channel started around the same time as mine. I don't know about things like kids. I know they're British and live in Poland. That's mostly it, unfortunately. Psychological help is needed for trans kids, and yeah, it's almost never offered. Yeah. Big butt is lacking. Basically negates his utmost care and concern. Yeah, exactly. There's no point saying, I care about you, and then but saying, but this, which I'm going to use conveniently as an excuse every time it comes up. It's the same stuff I hear from someone like Jammy Dodger, for example. And when I search Jammy Dodger's channel to see how often he talks about detransitioners, bearing in mind he claims to care about them so much, it's almost never. And like, what little I can find often seems to be more there to shit on people. There's some other people that say the same shit. And literally, if you look for their detrans content, it is all them shitting on detransitioners because they don't actually care. If they cared, they'd platform this shit. They'd actually go into more detail than just, oh, well, I do care about detransitioners. Because at that point, it's just a virtue signal.
It's There's a whole wide range of things that help people get through difficult times. I mean, think about when you're sick. And by the way, I'm going to make a few comparisons and parallels between being transgender and certain illnesses, and that does
Ooh, fun. I look forward to picking them apart.
not in any way suggest or imply that I think that being transgender is a kind of illness.
Okay, we heavily disagree here too.
Physical, mental, or otherwise, that requires a cure. Absolutely not.
I don't know. I could just choose not to believe you on this. Nah, I'll be nice. I'll be nice. I've been trying to be nice this whole video so far. I'm sure I will manage. What I think you should do, if you want to help me be nice, but still be entertaining, is click the like button. You scroll down, you can like the stream, like right there. 44 people, should be 44 plus likes. Also check the links in my description. Help support the channel. Maybe there won't be ads on all my videos one day, but that depends.
So please don't take this the wrong way. But imagine if you have a cold. Yes, you could take paracetamol, you could take, I don't know, whatever the cold remedy is, or you could eat chicken soup, you could get bed rest, you could get sympathy from your partner, you could watch Netflix, you can just wrap up warm, you can try to push through it and make everybody else around you miserable and sick as well.
Or you can try and push through it and not make people miserable, but I don't know.
There's different approaches and different ways, some probably more healthy than others, to get you through that period of illness. But the point is, you have access to all of those things. You might not need them.
They don't even care about trans people who have bad health outcomes. Yeah, true. Like, it feels like those kind of people don't spend much time talking about, like, surgery complications and stuff. Transitioning is treated as a cure. Yeah, I know, it's odd. It's odd the way people speak about this, because we're doing everything that you do when trying to cure something, and then pretending it's not like an illness. Like, I don't know. It's strange to me. Like, gender dysphoria is some kind of mental disorder, and that's fine. I'm a very mentally ill person myself. I have a lot wrong with me. I don't think I'm less of a person just because of that. So I don't think that to call it a mental illness is offensive, because I already have lots of mental illnesses. I'm still a fucking person. I'm still capable of an awful lot. Just because my life's a bit more complicated. Someone wants to say that I'm ill because of that, like, whatever, you know? It doesn't change anything about me.
You might not want them, but you can access them if it's necessary. If you are...
How do we determine who it's necessary for and why it's necessary above anything else? That's what I want to hear. The problem is, when these people just talk to themselves, there's no one to ask those kinds of questions. So they just continue, and they just, you know, they make these baseline points that seem to be the end of the conversation. And it's like, I don't know, if I write a comment, is it going to be answered? Am I going to be able to discuss this further with someone? I don't really trust that, unfortunately. I'm not saying this person wouldn't discuss any of this shit should someone approach them that way, but it's just so difficult, and it's so dodgy. Why don't we indulge mental illness and then fix reality? What was it? Have you talked about the 4,000% rise in FTMs? Crazy. Yeah, I mean, I personally think it is partly to do with social contagion. It's more prevalent amongst females than males. That's just how it is. Those kind of things don't happen naturally. It's very easy to be like, well, people just know about being trans more these days, but it doesn't explain anything.
Particularly sick, you can take a stronger form of painkiller, for instance. So yes, trans kids should have access to hormones as part of that therapy and support process.
Why? What's it helping them with? What happens if that's not what they need? What possible side effects could there be? Etc, etc. By the way, I don't know if he's going to talk much about puberty blockers. They're not time to think. If we hear time to think, then I think we probably have confirmation, I guess. But let's see.
That does not mean that I think they should be given them as a matter of course, immediately, without any kind of additional support that goes on around that. There should be extensive.
The problem is he's not giving any actual reasons as to why some kids should have that. You know what I mean? Oh, hi Meep, so good. Yeah, we need to explain why that's good for them. We need to explain, without using analogies, why this is the right thing to do for any of these kids, let alone all of them. It's all very well, you know. You don't think everyone should just have them thrown at them. Great, that's amazing, but...
And thorough conversations with an expert and specialist.
An expert and specialist. Ooh, nah, we don't like that here. We're not about that here. Listen, this isn't Alec Gunter. We don't just blindly believe everything that experts say. Get them talking to an expert. That's how you get them on all the stuff. Because that's what they're there for. They're just yes men. They're just yes men who react to certain things in that way and have a good way of manipulating people into believing that this is right for their kid, when whether it is or not is going to be very, very difficult to determine.
Prior to taking any medication, I'm not just talking about hormones here, I'm talking about everything.
Should it be treated like everything else? Isn't trans, like, to an extent, like cosmetic? What's it fixing as well? That's the other thing. What he's talking about is illnesses, but he doesn't think trans is an illness. So why do we treat it like an illness? I need an explanation for that as well.
Really? You shouldn't just be able to access whatever drug you want. Just rock up to a pharmacy and say, give.
Unless there is extreme medical need. Yeah, I'd be inclined to agree. Like, I don't know, we have them banned except for clinical trials. Maybe that will be enough to help some of these kids that are like really, really not coping. But ultimately, I'm just not for like medicalizing kids this way. I'm not for it. I don't think it's good for these people.
Give me whatever and expect to get it. No, you should go through the proper channels in order to get that. But in extension to this, let me point out that being a transgender and a transgender child in the UK especially, it's incredibly hard to get that support as well. So if you're a trans kid in the UK, you are torn, you are caught between a rock and a hard place, and now they've removed one form of support that...
Well, here's another question. What's the rush? Why do they have to transition during their adolescence? It wasn't a death sentence for me. I presume would say you're very happy with yourself and you're happy in your identity or whatever. So why are we trying to rush people? You know, let's just start a little boy's transition in Tanner stage 2 and watch as he will never have another orgasm in his life, you know?
It helps some of them. And beyond.
Because at the moment it's just, well, if it helps people, they should have it. That's so shallow that, like, you can't measure it, you know what I mean?
Beyond the treatment, beyond medication, beyond anything else, I would say the most damaging thing out of all of this, it's not accessing whatever, it's the tone. It's the tone of how this is being discussed.
How many kids are even, like, hearing the tone of what's being discussed and understanding it that well? I'm not sure.
In the public space, it's that sneering, we know what's best kind of approach.
And we're just making things up here.
That, oh well, trans kids, it's just a phase. They are being pressured by their friends or online spaces. That's absolutely not true for me.
Who are you talking about?
I don't know any trans people at all, really, in person, and yet somehow magically I was pressured when I was a kid, even though there was no way for me to trans people at all. Really not true for me. pressured by trans kids. It's just a phase. They are being pressured by their friends or online spaces. That's absolutely not true for me. I don't know any trans people at all, really, in person, and yet somehow magically I was pressured when I was a kid, even.
No shit, you weren't pressured as a kid. You started transitioning at the age of like 47, you know? What? Like, there's all different ways that people get into this. And that's why there probably should be all different kinds of options for helping people manage it. But like, who are you even talking about? Like, because you aren't a social contagion case, that doesn't mean that other people aren't. The social contagion shit doesn't always apply to MTFs anyway.
Even though there was no way for me to know what the whole transgender thing was all about.
I just laugh. Like, why? You heard yourself say this out loud. You might have gone back, watched it on your, oh my God, watched it on your video recording stuff, and then left this part in. There's a huge reason why it doesn't matter that you weren't pressured as a child. And I'm going to start with the fact that you started transition 6 months prior to the age you currently are. You can't apply that to me either. You know why? Because I started transition when I was like 25. For the years prior to that, I was just kind of putting makeup on and wearing all kinds of weird shit. Not really knowing what the fuck I was doing. Like, people weren't pressuring me. I was just trying stuff. And that's where I landed on, I guess. But that doesn't mean that because that wasn't my experience, that is not anyone else's.
They know that this is nonsense. They know this is not true for so many trans kids, and that
projection. And it doesn't matter which kids it's true for. What we're dealing with is someone who is a male, for example, and thinks they're female, which is not possible to be. So there's an issue either way.
That's why making sure that anybody having any kind of issues, be that gender or whatever it is, they need access to treatment and therapy as soon and as early as possible.
Well, if it's affecting their life, then sure. Why does it have to be puberty blockers?
As long as is necessary. Don't...
Like, that's so easy to... I'm sorry. People cannot get away with saying, well, if they've got a problem, they should be treated. Fucking obviously. But you don't know what that treatment is because you're not even a fucking doctor, as far as I can tell. Like... I'm trying to be nice.
Strip away that support and don't talk down to us without action.
And don't talk down to others. And actually be honest. And have more of a take than people should get the help that they need. Hey, Trace and the Dragon, I hope you're good. I'm just losing my mind, don't mind me.
Actually talking to us.
People don't talk down to me. And I think it's because I'm honest. And I think it's because I don't talk down to others. I don't know. It's not difficult. And I don't treat myself as if I'm some kind of alien to the vast majority of the world just because I'm trans. I'm not. I'm still a male person. I largely more kind of relate to other males than anything else. I just don't want to look like one. It's not hard. And it's not deep either. It just is what it is.
I promised myself that I would try to not get too angry in this video. And
No, get angry. That's what we need. That's what we need. We want anger. We want rage, male rage. Okay, I'll stop.
I would try to remain fairly level-headed, but it's hard.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Jesus.
Really hard. It's so tough. So
it's like he knows what any sensible person would think listening to this. You know what I mean? Let's just mirror how they feel and hope I get away with it. Like, I'm getting into like paranoid schizo shit now. It's what happens. This is what happens. We've still got 6 minutes though, so let's be good faith. Let's be good faith, and let's assume that this person is going to turn it around in the last 6 minutes and actually back up his opinions with literally anything. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Especially if you're watching this. I'm so sorry. I'm sure you're nice. You seem misguided so far. That's all.
When I get angry and frustrated, I don't want you to think that I am angry and frustrated at you personally as an individual. The situation, it sucks. And it kind of boils down to a combination of bodily autonomy and
bodily autonomy. Okay, so children cannot drink alcohol in the United Kingdom. They can't smoke. They can't get tattoos. They can't have sex with someone over the age of whatever, although it's that person that would get in trouble, not them. It's not a good argument. There's a lot of reasons why we don't allow children the same bodily autonomy that we allow adults. How's another one? They can't sit in the driver's seat of a car, turn it on and start driving it.
the tried and trusted. We're trying to protect the children.
Tried and trusted, the immediate cynicism. Do you not think some children need protecting from sterilizing themselves, getting certain parts of themselves cut off, and then having the rest of their lives to come back round and think, shit, that wasn't what I needed, was it? We just watched something. We watched a video with several people talking about how they had mastectomies, and now there's things they will never do. Like, my partner's sister has a kid, and when it came time to like wean off like breastfeeding, that was quite hard for her because it was like a bonding thing. Like, if you're a breastfeeding mother, there's not much closer you're ever going to get to your child than that, really, is there? So the fact that you're so blasé about these experiences that people are getting cheated out of because they're getting, they're getting the shit in their heads that doesn't need to be in their heads. It's quite callous, and it's shocking that you wouldn't think about any of this, quite frankly. You're old enough to know better.
Argument, which, fine, let's protect the children. Now let's talk a bit about body.
Yes. Why wouldn't we? Why would we want to put them through these, like, crazy procedures, these irreversible procedures? Oh, just get breast implants. Yeah, fuck that shit. You know what I mean? Keep going.
Bodily autonomy. When I was 8 or 9, I was circumcised.
To be fair, Meeps, I would imagine that most of Liverpool is on fire at any given time, and there probably are children driving around in like stolen cars and shit. But that's just me being racist against the North.
And I'm not going to go into details of how and why, but it was protect the children argument, which, fine, let's protect the children. Now let's talk a bit about bodily autonomy. When I was 8 or 9, I was circumcised, and
I don't agree with circumcision. Does that mean that we should allow child fucking transition? The answer to that is no. It has absolutely no bearing on whether we should transition children. I'm not into circumcision. 8 or 9 is a little late for circumcision. Yeah, it's a bit odd,
You're
but we'll bear with him.
anti-trans.
Oh, thank you, Canavox32X. You're anti-trans now. Hey, hope you're doing well.
I'm not going to go into details of how and why, but it was really painful, and I had no say in this. I just showed up at a doctor's place, and they were like...
And how is that so different from a kid getting surgery based on something that they have a limited understanding of, that they might not have even had it explained to them in a way that actually makes any sense? Like, their parents might be being told things like, oh, your kid's going to kill yourself. Do I support transing children or not? I do not support transing children. I think we should wait till they're adults. And I think people should be free to make decisions as adults. I don't think children can really understand this a lot of the time. And a lot of them desist. That's kind of basically my point.
Yeah, we're doing this. That's how it felt at the time. There was probably a little bit more consultation than that with my parents, but there was no discussion.
Yeah, they do that with child transition as well.
With me as a child, and my body was irrecoverably changed, and I had to endure a lot of pain. And before anybody says no, that I was circumcised did not make me trans, but that's really sweet of you to try to make that connection. Thank you.
If circumcision doesn't make you trans, why does vaginoplasty, why does taking hormones to grow breasts as a male?
But what's my point here? My point is, well, okay, if you care about the safety of children, what about that? There are so many other avenues where children face real threats to themselves, to their safety. And, you know, I suppose this is kind of a whataboutist kind of argument, and it's that sort of, well, how can you focus on this when there's so much other suffering going on in the world?
It's very simple. If all we ever do is focus on the thing that we've all agreed is the most harmful, what happens is these smaller issues just go unnoticed and then get worse until suddenly, now that's a big issue. Why does he eerily sound like Jamie Dodger? Well, they're in the same cult, so I guess that's it. Was I circumcised? I was not circumcised. They really don't do that in the UK. I'm surprised this person had it done. But then they're older than me, so maybe things were different then. Like in the US, I understand that lots of kids get it done. I say get it done. They have it done to them. Like they don't choose. They don't like fucking ask for one out of the womb. You know what I mean? But I don't know. I'm not for fuck me. I'm not for circumcision anyway. I guess if it's a religious thing, then, you know, you do you, I guess. But me personally, I'm not down with it.
World, I guess people are free to have their little moral crusades about stuff.
Moral crusades? About, like, kids getting fucking sterilized? That's a moral crusade, is it? Like, really? Like, he has not done anything to earn this kind of, like, patronizing attitude towards people that disagree with him. No offense. Like, Jesus Christ. All we've had really so far is, well, if someone has a condition, they need the help and support they can get for it. Like, sure. But just saying, if someone needs help, they should get help is pretty pointless. Like, you gotta get a bit more into it than this. I'm 55 in the UK, circumcision didn't happen back then. Something's up with this person's family then. Jesus fucking Christ. That's odd. Like, that never came up in my life. Although my dad's an atheist, maybe that, you know, there wasn't the religious aspect. I don't know what other aspects might have come up. If I'm being really cynical, I could say maybe it was actually a necessary procedure because this person had something up with like their penis or whatever. But I don't know that. That'd be speculating. I don't want to. I'm not trying to be cynical. I find this person quite cynical, so I don't want to do it from the opposite side, you know?
But in realistic terms, you're stripping away the care of kids.
And again, we just go back to the vagaries. When we get into other examples, suddenly we get nuanced. Suddenly we start exploring something in a bit of detail. Then as soon as we get to the trans kids thing, we blow it out again. You haven't spoken very deeply about trans kids. You're using analogies. And if all you use is analogies, and every time you talk about the actual issue, suddenly it's very vague and blown out and, well, we should just help people, then you're not really informed on this issue, I'm afraid. You don't know what you're talking about.
And giving them nothing, you're replacing this with nothing, basically.
Read the cast review. That is not true. Besides, you know, therapy is something that people can get whatever they have. Our mental health services are not very good, I will grant. I have plenty of stuff that I cannot even get diagnosed, let alone help for. But don't just pretend it's nothing. That's not true.
You're taking away something, an element of their life that...
Hi, Vintage. I'm a new fan from Chad Logic channel. I desisted years ago. I'm glad to see more trans people speaking out. Yeah, for sure, yeah. Gonna keep happening. There's gonna be more and more. So, yeah. Thanks for watching.
Has helped them to get through one of the hardest times of their lives.
Has it? By what measure? Have you got any one case that you're talking about, or is this more generalities? Because that's all we've had so far. When it comes to the actual topic, it's just generalities.
And replacing it with nothing. And you're telling me that you want to protect the kids.
You're just wrong. No one said replacing it with nothing. That's what you're saying. They can't get puberty blockers anymore, except for in clinical trials. That's not taking away their treatment and replacing it with nothing. There's lots we still don't know about, like the way puberty blockers are used for trans kids. Someone in my chat mentioned earlier there were a bunch of lawsuits against Lupron from like precocious puberty people who often aren't actually on them for all that long.
Anyway, this is a tough topic.
You know what makes it easier? Not essentializing the fuck out of it and talking about it honestly and not analogizing, talking about the issue itself.
And it's going to make a lot of people very angry, and it's going to probably generate quite a lot of very shouty responses in my comment section.
Well, then be honest. Give an honest view of this.
And elsewhere. And I've been and ahhing about whether or not to make videos on more controversial topics.
Yes, please do. Always. If the question is, should I do this thing that's a bit more controversial? Yes. Always. Doesn't matter what it is. Just do it. Promise you. Listen, I don't have bad intentions for people like this. I just disagree with them. Hopefully that's obvious, but I'm sure I'll get plenty of people being like, oh, you hate trans people. Wow, never heard that one before.
Because ultimately, I don't want to talk about these things. I want to talk about my...
Really? I love talking about the controversial shit. Are you kidding? Why are you a YouTuber then?
my life and my experience, but I think it's also partly my responsibility as a transgender woman who is also visibly trans and in the world.
What do you mean by visibly trans?
And actually quite
What does this person think about whether I should talk about these kind of things, do you think? Bearing in mind, I have the opposite opinion when it comes to child transition. The difference is I can actually explain why without going off on tangents and then being like, and therefore, help the kids, you know, in the most vague way possible.
happy about this turn of events, me being trans, that is. I do need to talk about it. This video, I don't know, it might only reach 5 people, and that's fine.
Currently 52 just in this one play of it, so hey, and 76 views, so more than 100 at this point. Not bad.
I don't want this in a way to reach thousands and thousands. I want...
Am I also visibly trans? What does it mean to be visibly trans?
to sit down with 5 people who are on the fence.
As the surgeons arguing during a revision. Yeah, I've heard bits of that. I watched, I think it was a Blair White video, but I was like in and out in terms of how much I was listening. But I think that's one of the bits I caught, and it was like, Jesus Christ. And it was something like, one of them being like, oh, it's a very rare procedure that almost no one's had before. I didn't think there'd be these complications. And it's like, what, really? A new experimental procedure? Didn't think there'd be complications? What planet are you from? Anyway, just let me fucking cut this kid up. Yeah. Oh God, anyway.
And they've heard about this trans thing, but they're not quite sure what it means. Because you only hear one side of the argument so
Is that true? Is that true?
often. And our voices, they go unheard. And
Not going unheard at the moment.
I think it's really important that that's not the case.
This is massive cope. Like, there's lots of big trans channels that push the exact same narrative that this one does. And for a long time, like, it kind of feels like there's been a certain amount of capture of things like media and universities, schools, etc., by this very perspective that we're now pretending doesn't get heard enough. Somehow, what this person is saying doesn't get heard enough. I mean, I've got another thing to watch that is from someone with the exact same perspective as you, because these channels keep popping up. Someone else makes a new channel and they're trans and they say the exact same shit that you do. And you say the exact same shit as someone else before you who said the exact same shit as someone else before them, where it comes from some fucking prick like Jammy Dodger or something, or someone like ContraPoints.
And so I suppose this is my attempt And I'm sure some people will point out how I'm wrong in certain places, and that's fine. You know, I'm perfect.
Well, it's not really fine. You're pushing the idea that trans kids exist and that we should medically treat them. We should medicalize them. It's not really fine. I don't think that's fine at all. I hate when people say, oh, well, we disagree and that's fine. Like, shut the fuck up. It's not fine. Actually explain your position.
Fully open to being wrong, but I think we are talked about and not talked with enough.
I'll agree with that. Loads of people talk about me and not to me and come to the conclusion that I'm pretending to be Blair White, despite not being American, not being right-wing, having a very different approach to all of this. Plenty of people will talk about how I'm transphobic without talking to me. It goes both ways, and it happens to everyone, unfortunately. Here's another thing. We're what, 0.5% of the world population? Yeah, of course, we're not going to get hurt all the time. But then, if you're not saying anything new, and if you're not saying anything insightful, then that's just kind of how it's going to be. Like, I'm sorry about it. I really am.
And that really sucks. And so I hope that this is maybe the start of a conversation between several people. I mean, I could talk about this for hours, to be honest. I could talk about the fact that some kids are going to give up hope altogether over this. And
oh, I could talk about this and actually say any of my opinions on the actual subject, which you've been largely avoiding for the most part.
That could lead to...
What about the kids that are medicalized erroneously, that then have to deal with problems later in life? You want to make a pro-suicide argument like, oh, do this, otherwise they'll kill themselves. Well, that goes both ways too. Listen, this person says they want to talk to more people or whatever. The first thing we have to do is acknowledge that there is harm on both sides of this equation. If you don't think so, then you're full of shit. If you don't think there's harm in stopping some of these kids from getting any kind of help, then you're wrong. If you think there's no harm in affirming these children and medicalizing them at crazy young ages, you're very wrong. I'm sorry. Why not wear a scarf? I think they are wearing a scarf. I could be wrong.
all sorts of tragic consequences. I could talk about how it's going to instill a sense of fear amongst everybody.
How so? Fear of what?
Within the trans community.
Fear of what? Most of the trans community started as adults and are already trans. What are they scared of? Not being able to trans other people? I don't want to trans anyone else. If someone is going to transition, they should come to that decision themselves. I don't want anything to do with it. I don't want to compel people. I just want to... well, I don't know. I don't know what I just want to do, but I don't want to compel people that way. So what are we talking about here?
You can see everybody now scrambling and worrying about what...
Yeah, they're going crazy because they do things like listen to Erin in the morning and listen to all these crazy YouTubers that are scaremongering. There's so much scaremongering going on, and you wonder why people are scared. I'm actually getting mad now. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Listen, no hate, no hate.
Whether or not they will continue to have access to the medications that they need.
That they need, Jesus Christ. Well, at the moment, we've just been talking about puberty blockers. And again, how do you know it's what they need? What we want and what we need are two different things. And we haven't shown why they need this. You haven't done that. You've made analogies. You can make all the analogies you want. If you never actually come around and talk about the actual issue, except for we should give people the help they need, then you've said basically nothing. You've just said your opinion. I think kids should transition. And that's fine, I guess, but there's an awful lot of reasons why people, such as myself, don't think that's the case and that children shouldn't transition. Scared of not being able to push the agenda on kids. Well, here's the thing. Trans people don't recreate, what's the word? Trans people don't reproduce like naturally most of the time. I mean, I say that, like, hardly anyone gets like vaginoplasties, let alone the other one. But like, if we want trans to continue, then we kind of have to keep like bringing people in. The thing is, I don't give a fuck if it continues. I, was able to. I'm glad. I'm happier that way. I kind of wish there was more around to help people that are gender non-conforming feel okay with themselves, because I probably didn't have to transition. I'm fine with the fact that I did. But like, do I want others to do it? Well, like, only if they really, really want to. I mean, it's not something you should just do on a fucking whim. And it's not something you should do because we're pathologizing certain kinds of thoughts and feelings.
And it really is a time of worry and fear within the trans community. As I say, it's not just about the medications, it's about everything that surrounds this conversation and this narrative. It's about how we're not being listened to, we're not being heard.
We can't even talk to each other as fellow trans people that disagree. You know what happens to people like trans people that don't agree with the doctrine? They get called trans meds. That's just other people's way of like instantly writing someone off as a bad person. Just call them a trans med. You know what I think? I think the word trans med needs to fucking go. I think we need to normalize just trans people having all different kinds of opinions and not splitting it into a binary, because for some fucking reason, almost everything except for gender and apparently sex, which is not true, is a binary. It's bizarre.
Our voices are disregarded and
I'm not disregarding your voice, to be clear. I am disagreeing with your voice. People listen. The problem is, if you're saying the same shit as everyone else, like, yeah, it's just going to become a blur at a certain point. It's just going to become white noise. And when people don't feel honest, as I'm really not sure how honest this person is being when they're reluctant to talk about the actual issue, then that's going to put people off. I'm sorry. I feel like the reason people watch me more than anything is because I'm just kind of honest about this. And I say what I think and not what is like, what is strategically good for me to say because I want to have like trans friends or something. I don't give a fuck about being friends with anyone. I care about the truth.
rather patronizingly talked about how we don't actually know what we need and what we want when
people don't always. That's not patronizing. That's just the truth. And you should be very careful before doing the kind of things that constitute transitioning.
Yeah, for example, I've been living in this body for 40 plus years. I think I know who I am.
It takes some people a lifetime. It doesn't even... a lot of people, I would say, probably don't even get to that point. Who are you? I don't know.
Well,
I'd go as far as saying, who am I? I don't really know. I'm just me.
I'm sure some of you have got some things that you'd like to say, some responses that you'd like to make, and
That's not really what I'm saying, Toaster Cleaner. I'm saying I'm not pandering to anyone.
Look forward to hearing them. I was hoping that this wouldn't be such a hard-hitting topic. I was hoping to talk about something happy in this video, and I do have something planned, something a little bit more upbeat and positive, and that, I guess, will be out next week unless anything awful happens in the meantime. But take care, have a good weekend, I'll see you soon, bye.
There we go, we did the whole thing. Fervently disagree. Hopefully I managed to do so without insulting anyone. Hopefully I managed to do so without being mean, because I know that I do the slightest tiny thing wrong, there'll be someone fucking getting on my ass about it. But we did it. We did it. Okay, there we go. Transgender education. Should transgender kids have access to hormones? We clearly disagree there, and I have given my reasons as to why. So, great.